What's up guys, Mickle here, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys some major wins that the XRP community got today that most people are not talking about. The SEC just took a major loss in another court case that directly impacts their regulatory overreach. In this video, I'm going to show you guys exactly how this could affect the SEC in the Ripple case and why this is such good news for XRP holders. You guys are not going to want to miss that. Guys, we also caught Gary Gensler in an absolutely hilarious admission. Gary Gensler just said something that could turn this entire Ripple SEC case on its head. In this video, I'm going to show you guys the big mistake Gary Gensler just made and what it means for this Ripple SEC case going forward. And we have had a ton of major submissions in the Ripple SEC case as of recent, including the SEC once again trying to not hand over Bill Hinman's Ethereum free pass emails, and even John Deaton trying to get involved to explain XRP's certain utility to the court. I'm going to show you guys a timeline of all the important dates we need to be paying attention to so you guys have a better idea of what's coming up in this case. Last of all, at the end of this video, I'm going to show you guys the global elites once again telling you that XRP is the digital asset that is going to change the financial system. If you guys ever had any wavering confidence in XRP's position in the global financial system, make sure you stick around for that because this will blow your mind. Like always, if you are new to this channel or come here all the time, please take a second to hit the like and subscribe button down below. It goes such a long way in helping to support this channel, and it really does mean so much to me. If you guys ever need a good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out the link in the description below. With that said though, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So guys, the first thing we need to talk about is it looks like the SEC is getting nervous. Just today, the SEC filed a motion for an extension of time until June 7th, 2022 to file an objection to the amici request to participate in briefing regarding the expert challenge. And this has to do with John Deaton trying to get in the case to represent the 67,000 XRP holders who the SEC attacked with this lawsuit. I think it's so ironic that the SEC is trying so hard to keep John Deaton out of this case when he himself is trying to represent the very people that the SEC is supposed to protect. It just shows where the SEC's true motives really lie and the fact that they could care less about the retail investor. I thought Fred had a really good response to this. He said, the SEC needs more time for a response it already wrote to John Deaton's letter motion. I guess the SEC already answered this. I'm not too sure exactly what he's referring to here, but he says of course they do. Now we know why attorney Jeremy said in his last video it was better to get this out early, and that's because of course the SEC is going to delay this thing at any chance they get, and once again we see the SEC doing exactly that, and that's why it was so smart to file this when John Deaton did. He then goes on to say John's amicus brief will demolish the SEC gov until it looks like duty, obviously poking fun at the SEC expert witness whose last name is Duty. I think it's really important to point out here though that now we know that attorney Fred and attorney Jeremy both agree that John Deaton will succeed in getting into this case to represent the 67,000 XRP holders. It's always a very good sign whenever we see all these different attorneys agreeing on how a certain motion will be ruled on, and the main reason they all agree that John Deaton will be allowed in the case is because the whole reason the court let him into this case to start with was to represent the 67,000 XRP holders, and all the lawyers tend to agree that this is the perfect opportunity for John Deaton to have his voice heard. So it seems very likely that John Deaton's motion will get through the court and he will be able to counter the SEC's points on why XRP has utility outside of Ripple. This no doubt is going to be huge for Ripple and XRP holders because it's really awkward for Ripple to try to make arguments on what utility XRP holders have for XRP, considering they are involved with Ripple's business model. But by John Deaton getting involved in this motion and having him explain the utility that XRP holders use XRP for, it actually hits the SEC from the flank and takes out one of their expert witnesses who is gonna try to make the assumption that he knows better than XRP holders what XRP holders use XRP for. Ultimately, this will completely destroy one of the prongs of Howey, which is a common enterprise, and John Deaton is leading the charge in making sure the court knows that Ripple is not the only party that uses XRP. There are hundreds of thousands of XRP holders who also have interest in the digital asset, and this is going to go down as a huge loss for the SEC in this case. So now, before we get into Gary Gensler's big mistake, I wanted to quickly go over some big upcoming motions, and I'm just going to go over the ones that are coming up soon, but make sure you just pause the screen and take a look at all of these if you want to know more. So first, on May 27th, we have the motion for attorney fees via Dr. Metz. This one really isn't that important, but it's also coming up right around the corner, so I thought I'd point it out. Then we have the SEC has to reply on why it can't answer Ripple's questions, on why the SEC decided to sue Ripple in the first place. Pretty much Ripple's going to the SEC and saying, hey, can you identify any contract between us and XRP holders? They even asked the SEC questions as simple of, hey, here's a video of Bill Hinman talking. Is that Bill Hinman talking? And pretty much the SEC refused to answer any of it. One time they even refused to answer whether or not they knew what Bitcoin and Ethereum were. They are clearly just playing games at this point. They're gamifying this entire SEC case, but the SEC is going to have to explain themselves on why they can't answer these simple questions. I think that will be pretty interesting. Then on June 7th, this one is big. The SEC is going to have to answer John Deaton's motion on why XRP holders shouldn't be able to represent themselves and explain the utility they use XRP for in this case. This one's going to be pretty funny to watch because the SEC is going to be arguing against the very people they are supposed to protect, and I guarantee you that one's going to get messy. Then just 3 days later, Deaton will have a chance to answer the SEC to whatever absurd things they try to claim. And then on 6/10, also Ripple will respond to whatever excuse the SEC has on why they suddenly can't recognize Bill Hinman and why they suddenly don't know what Bitcoin and Ethereum are. That one will be pretty funny, assuming that the SEC's answers are absurd as they have been thus far. Now guys, I want to keep moving and show you guys a few pretty big wins that Ripple actually got today, completely outside of the SEC case. Just today, Gary Gensler put out a video on his own Twitter, and I think he made a big slip up in this clip he put out there. We know one of the sticking points, one of the things Gary Gensler has been saying forever is that the rules are clear, everything's a security. Everyone knows how absurd this is, and the only reason Gary Gensler is really saying this is because if he comes out and says the rules aren't clear, well then how could Ripple have ever known the rules? I have a feeling Gary Gensler knows the rules aren't clear, and he pretty much admits it right here. He's only saying it because he knows if he says the rules aren't clear, that's fair notice gold for Ripple. If the SEC commissioner is saying, hey, there's no rules, how could Ripple have known the rules back in 2013? It's absurd. Well, just today he said, we'll figure out how the regulations will work, we'll adapt where need be, and where appropriate to achieve our core mission. Well, if you have to make adaptations and you have to figure out how the regulations are going to work, it sounds like the rules aren't that clear. And I tweeted out, regulations are clear, they just don't exist yet. Thanks. And that's pretty much what we're dealing with. But more importantly, outside of how absurd it is, I think it really shows how strong Ripple's fair notice is. The current SEC commissioner, the past SEC commissioner, the guy who gave the Ethereum free pass, and Hester Peirce all agree that the rules aren't clear. So how could Ripple have known the rules were clear? It doesn't make any sense. And because of that, it is becoming more and more obvious by the day that Ripple will win the fair notice defense. And I think it's pretty important to point out, this isn't a new stance for Gary Gensler. Back when he wasn't even at the SEC, he was caught on stage saying directly about cryptocurrency, we need more clarity. And since he said that, there's been virtually nothing done to provide more clarity. So why is Gary Gensler doing this besides the fact that he clearly doesn't want to tank the case against Ripple? Like I said, if he says there's no clarity, Ripple wins on fair notice. Well, Stuart Alderati put it best. We all agree that consumer and market protections are needed, but saying that every token besides Bitcoin maybe is a security is a combination of bad law and bad policy, all in the name of the SEC's political land grab over this asset class. The SEC's jurisdiction is not limitless, and I think this is a huge part of it. Gary Gensler is trying to get as much power for the SEC as he can possibly get. He's a career politician. He wants to put this on his resume. He wants to move up to the next position and say, hey, look at how much power I got for the SEC. I can do that at this next agency. He is desperately trying to get as much power for the SEC as he can, regardless of the implications for the cryptocurrency industry. I think this is a huge part of it. Gary Gensler is stubborn. He wants to create policy just to put on his resume, and that looks like exactly what's going on here right now. But guys, the good news is this is not going unnoticed. It looks like different groups are starting to realize the implications of Gary Gensler's broad overreach, and just today, and this was a huge win for Ripple, completely outside of the case, just today Crypto Law tweeted out that there was actually a big win by an independent party that was in litigation with the SEC, which found that the SEC was engaging in unconstitutional overreach in administrative adjunctions. And John Deaton tweeted out, very important case out of the Fifth Circuit. It couldn't come at a better time as Gary Gensler attempts to assume jurisdiction over an asset class better suited for the CFTC and instead accept ICOs. And John Deaton nails it right here. Gary Gensler knows that his jurisdiction stops at ICOs, and it's so obvious. Cryptocurrencies very clearly fall into the jurisdiction of the CFTC, and Gary Gensler is just trying to broadly take over the entire industry. The good news is the SEC is now taking some significant losses that are completely calling out the SEC's overreach. This is exactly what we want to see, because the more losses the SEC takes, the more courts like the court in the Ripple case are gonna realize that the SEC is completely out of line here, and it completely makes sense that Ripple had no way of knowing that the SEC would be acting in such a ridiculous way. It's going to show that the SEC is simply out of line here, and Ripple really always has been on the right side of the law. I think it's becoming more and more obvious for everyone outside of Gary Gensler that most cryptocurrencies are not securities, they are commodities. Gary Gensler does have his place over things like ICOs and certain security tokens, but there is no way that cryptocurrencies like XRP will ever be declared a security, and it looks like the courts are slowly catching on to that. Last of all, I wanted to quickly show you guys this because I see with the price action going down, people getting nervous, people questioning their holdings. Guys, take a look at this directly out of the IMF. These are the elites of the elites, the most powerful people in the entire world, an assembly of the most important businesses in the world. We can think about digital money as a public good. In the context, we are calling for a public platform to connect different central bank digital currencies with interoperability, the same way you would transfer money from one country to another. Guys, who does that sound like? Who is a public company, has a public blockchain that can be used to connect different central banks' digital currencies? Guys, if that wasn't obvious enough, take a look at the only cryptocurrency CEO working with the World Economic Forum. That is Brad Garlinghouse. The World Economic Forum and the IMF are pretty much the same entity. Guys, it could not be more obvious. They are literally telling you that XRP and Ripple are the solution, and you own the XRP that will be transforming the world. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update. Make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me out so much. And for now, Mickle out.